Welcome to the SkullKing Fantasy Football Podcast, powered by StatRoute.com. And now, here's your host, Ryan Skullroot.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the SkullKing Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Ryan Skullroot. I am your host. It is a solo show tonight, just so you know. I'll turn this down just a touch because I'm clipping like crazy. Tonight, we did not do an episode last night. We had some personal business and some technical difficulties all rolled up into one. And so we are going through all of the games tonight from Thursday through Sunday Night Football. We will cover the Monday Night Football game Sunday night during our Kings and Stings episode. So we have a bit of a show lined up, and like I said, I'm going to be going through all of those Sunday games and Thursday Night Football all in one. So start off with just a couple announcements. Again, make sure you go to patreon.com/SkullKingNation to support us here at SkullKing, to help us, continue to provide the info that you guys need as part of becoming a subscriber and a patron there on Patreon, and becoming part of the SkullKing Nation. It allows you to get coupon codes for percentages off of merchandise in our merch store. Not only that, you can get added to our Slack channel, where you can get information, questions about trades, dynasty, redraft, any of that directly from our staff, as part of being a supporter on Patreon. And so there are different levels that you can be patrons at, and we encourage you. We would love it if you guys could hop on there and join us and become part of the SkullKing Nation. Second little announcement I wanted to go over. We received our rankings accuracy for this last week. And while overall it wasn't a great week for me, I was actually number 11, the number 11 running back ranker this last week for week 2. And so far on the season, I am the number 11 tight end ranker on fantasypros.com. So, like I said, an okay week for me, not great. Decent in the running backs, and I am now, number 11 in terms of tight end rankings for the season. A couple other highlights of the rankings for our guys. Justin, again, I am the only one who's actually, that you guys can actually see involved on Fantasy Pros. However, Justin, my brother, as of right now, if he were included in the contest, would be right around number 50 overall. He would be the number 10 wide receiver overall ranker after 2 weeks. In week number 2, I believe he was right around number 30 or 31 for rankings for week 2. A couple other highlights. Daniel Glasser, I believe, was number 22. Would have been number 22 overall. He was the number 9 wide receiver ranker on the week. And Sean Wittriell was right around number 30 overall for week 2 and was number 6 in QB ranking accuracy. I hope you guys find this helpful. We are doing our best to provide you as accurate rankings as we can, to provide you the information that you need to rule your leagues like none other. So, again, we will continue to give you guys updates on our ranking accuracy as we receive it, and it helps us to work on being better at what we do so that we can help you guys just absolutely dominate your fantasy football league. So that is it for the announcements. Why don't we go ahead and get into today's headlines?
Today's headlines.
And starting off, it is official. The Eli Manning era is over in New York. Pat Shurmur has officially named Daniel Jones as a starting quarterback for Week 3 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at Tampa Bay. Now, I'll go over a little bit more of this, what it means for this week in the game previews section of this podcast. But for right now, really just want to say I am a believer in Daniel Jones. I think he has the tools. He has the He has the mental capacity to be a quarterback. It's just a matter of, can he put all that together? I believe he can. And like I said, we will see. He showed pretty well during the preseason. However, he has, not only in the preseason, but in the couple snaps he took in the blowout loss to Dallas, he has shown rookie mistakes. And so definitely a guy that I'm looking forward to watching him grow to see if he can become the type of quarterback that I know Giants fans hope he can be. And so, again, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do and seeing how this works out in New York. Moving on to story number 2, Cam Newton is likely, as we know right now, out for Week 3 versus Arizona. Kyle Allen is projected to get the start in that game, and I think overall, I think this will be good for Cam Newton to try to get him healthy. He re-aggravated that foot injury that he suffered. I want to say it was in the 3rd preseason game. And so that is definitely something to watch for and hope that he is able to recover from that. We'll kind of see how this affects the rest of the team. I don't think, honestly, it's going to do too much. Cam hasn't been running all that much so far this season, and Kyle Allen played pretty admirably for the most part down the stretch. The last couple games of last season, when Cam Newton was out with his shoulder. So I think that in this game, I think that the Panthers will be able to survive, possibly even come out with a win. The Cardinals defense has been pretty atrocious so far, and so I think that the Cardinals can get through this, and hopefully Cam Newton's able to come back healthy. So. Story number 3. AJ Green was seen running at practice with no noticeable limp, doing drills on the rehab field. Hopefully he is able to come back soon. If he does, when he does, it's probably going to affect John Ross the most, in my opinion. We'll see. We'll kind of see how that goes. But AJ Green, if the guy could stay healthy, he's an absolute monster, a beast of a player that can just do amazing things on the field. One of the top receivers in the game. Again, the problem is, can he stay healthy? And so far, that has not been the case the last couple of years. But once he gets back, I think that he could be in good shape to step back into that wide receiver 1 role. And again, I think John Ross is the one that suffers the most. If that's the case, if AJ Green does come back. So a couple other stories that I wanted to go over real quick before we get into the game previews. As far as O.J. Howard is concerned, Bruce Arians has been somewhat critical of O.J. Howard in terms of what he's done on the field so far, but he says that the balls will come, that catches will come, targets will come. We will see when that actually happens. I know that there was concern that in a Bruce Arians offense that O.J. Howard may not get the work that everyone was expecting. And so we will see how that turns out over the next couple weeks. Sam Darnold, as far as we know, Sam Darnold is expecting to be back around week 5. The Jets seem to say, was it, quote, full confidence that Darnold will be back week 5, I believe. Week 3, he will be out. Week 4 is a bye week for the Jets, I believe, and then week 5 is the week he comes back. So the Lions have claimed Paul Perkins from the New York Giants and have waived C.J. Anderson. Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey are most likely at this point. We're looking like they are going to be out this week. Jackson could possibly be out 2-ish weeks. He's got an abdominal strain. Alshon Jeffrey is dealing with a calf strain. Marcus Mariota practiced in full yesterday and should be ready to go with he had a little quad injury. Should be ready to go for the Thursday night football game against Jacksonville. The running sentiment right now in terms of Jalen Ramsey is that he will get traded eventually to the Kansas City Chiefs. And another kind of semi-big story that I want to talk about for a second, Matt LaFleur, the coach of the Packers, has said that he wants to make more even carries between Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones. And all Aaron Jones owners start screaming and swearing while I sit here and say, I saw this coming. This is a guy who last year had Dion Lewis and Derrick Henry and couldn't decide which of them he wanted to use in his offense. The Titans are just now this year saying we are going to run the ball with Derrick Henry. And they still haven't really done that as much as we thought they would. They're still getting I still think that Dion Lewis is involved in that offense a little more than was expected. Compared to considering how much they said they wanted Derrick Henry to run the ball. That being said, getting back to Green Bay, I'm not surprised by this. I think that in a way they want to manage Aaron Jones' reps with his meniscus injuries that he's had. I want to say 3 meniscus issues in the last 2 years. He's missed 6 to 10 games, somewhere in that range. I know that's a broad range, but he's missed a few games each of the last couple years. He also missed 2 games from suspension. I think that part of it's they're managing reps. Jamal Williams is, I believe, the better running back in terms of pass protection, and so I think that could have something to do with what they're wanting to do there. So I am not surprised by this, and I don't expect Aaron Jones' production to go down too much unless he gets injured. I still think he's that borderline running back 1, running back 2. He's a running back 2 that can put up running back 1 numbers. That's basically how I have him ranked. So, all right, we're going to take a quick break for a little commercial here, and then we will get right into the game previews for Week 3 in the NFL season. All right, we are back. It is time to hammer through the previews for Week 3 in the NFL. Again, we will be covering everything from the Thursday night football game all the way through Sunday night football. Again, the Monday night game we cover on our Kings and Stings episode Sunday night that goes live on Monday. So I hope you guys are ready for this. Let's go ahead and get this started. Starting off Thursday night football, the Titans versus the Jaguars. Marcus Mariota, I continue to put him as a quarterback 2. Just with how many injuries and everything he deals with, he can put up quarterback 1 numbers, especially with his running ability. I have him more as that quarterback 2, kind of that quarterback 13 to 16 range. Mid quarterback 2. Derrick Henry, he is a running back 2 that can put up running back 1 numbers. I think that his average is going to be right about a running back 2 as far as he is concerned. As far as the wide receivers go, Davis and A.J. Brown, I believe, are both wide receiver 4s. We're still looking to see what's going to come of this passing game. For the most part, the passing game goes through Delaney Walker, the tight end 1. He is going to remain a tight end 1 as long as he is healthy and as long as Mariota is the quarterback. As long as those 2 are still there, they're going to be a tandem that's going to work very well together. So, moving on to the Jaguars, Gardner Minshew, a quarterback 2, again, kind of that mid-range quarterback 2. Leonard Fournette, I have as a running back 3 with upside, kind of that range, kind of quarter or running back 2 to 3. We're still waiting to kind of see that offensive line really gel together and provide the holes that Fournette needs to run through. So, in terms of the wide receiver core, DJ Chark is a boom or bust wide receiver 3. He can put up big numbers. Right now, Westbrook is bench fodder. Once Nick Foles went down, there was nothing. There's no real major chemistry between Westbrook and Gardner Minshew. Minshew really worked well with DJ Chark in the preseason, and that rapport is continuing. So those are really the fantasy players that I am willing to work with in this game. And yes, that's it. So moving on, the Bengals versus the Bills. Andy Dalton is a quarterback 2, can put up quarterback 1 numbers again with them passing the ball 50 times a game because they haven't really been able to get the running game going. Dalton has that low end quarterback 1 ceiling. Just to average things out, I think he's going to be a high end quarterback 2. As far as the wide receivers go, Tyler Boyd and John Ross are both wide receiver 2s. I know that John Ross, I believe, is like the wide receiver 1 overall right now because he has 3 touchdowns and 200 I think is 111 yard in 1 and 156 in game 2. So, or in his 2 games. So, while he is overall right now the wide receiver 1, I don't see that necessarily continuing. I think he's a wide receiver 2 that can put up big numbers, especially with how much they're throwing the ball. As far as Mixon is concerned, he is not on the injury report, practiced fully. I see him again. He's in that running back 2 range, the low-end running back 2, because they have not been able to really open up the holes for him to run the ball very much either. So I don't really like Mixon all that much, but if you drafted him early in that second round, you may not have much of a choice but to play him. Just don't expect much better than low-end running back 2 numbers right now. Tyler Eifert and CJ Uzomah, as far as the tight ends are concerned, they're mid-range tight end 2s. They just don't have the volume. Tyler Eifert, for the most part, all of his production has always been based off the fact that he gets into the end zone. He's never been a huge target guy. He's never been a huge yards guy. It's all been about the end zone. So he is kind of that mid-range tight end 2 that could provide a touchdown. As far as the Bills go, Josh Allen I have as a quarterback 1, kind of that quarterback 1 or 2 range, 10 to 12 area. Because of his running ability, he throws for about 250 yards, throws for a touchdown or 2, runs for a touchdown, and gets about 25 to 50 yards rushing on the ground. That's perfect out of a streaming option, especially if you're playing in a 10 to 12 team league and he is on the waiver wires. He is the guy that you can pick up to be your quarterback this week against the Bengals defense that is struggled last week at home against the 49ers. Right now, we are not completely sure on what's going on with Devin Singletary and his hamstrings. If he sits, Frank Gore is a running back 2 against a defense that gave up a ton of rushing yards to Raheem Mostert and Matt Breida. I think that he can easily put up running back 2 numbers. John Brown I see as a boomer bust, wide receiver 3 with upside. It all depends on how much they get the passing game going for the Bills. And they don't really have a tight end to speak of, so that is it for that game. Moving on, the Miami Dolphins versus the Dallas Cowboys. As far as the Miami Dolphins go, all right, that was it. Now let's move on to the Cowboys. There really is nothing to use as far as the Miami Dolphins go that you should not be starting. I mean, if one of them breaks out, one of their players has a great game and breaks out, that's not a shot I'm willing to take. That is not a chance that I'm willing to take right now. It's simply because of how horrible that whole team is. So moving on to the Cowboys. Dak Prescott, again, he's going to put up quarterback 1 numbers against this just fizzling Dolphins defense. Amari Cooper is a wide receiver, a high-end wide receiver 2. Randall Cobb, with the loss of Michael Gallup right now, I believe moves up a little bit. Wide receiver 3. Still kind of that flex wide receiver 3 range, but I think he has a little more upside right now. Zeke obviously is a running back 1, and Jason Witten is a high-end tight end 2 simply because he gets targeted in the red zone. He has 7 catches for 40 yards, but he has 2 touchdowns. 4 targets a game is what he's getting. He back before he retired and went into the booth of Monday Night Football, he was getting 4 to 7 targets a game. That's continuing. So I think that he will have enough production. Again, he has that tight end 2 upside, or high-end tight end 2 upside. Could put another one in the end zone against this weak Miami Dolphins defense. As far as the Broncos and Packers go, Joe Flacco I have as a quarterback 2, and not very high on the quarterback 2 spectrum. Royce Freeman I have on that running back 2/3 range right now. He has outperformed Phillip Lindsay in week 2. Not so much in week 1, but week 2. Phillip Lindsay, I want to say in half-point PPRs, only put up 8.6 points the last 2 weeks. really has not done a whole lot. He's in the flex range, or possibly even that running back 3 sit area for right now until we actually see him really get more going. They still want to keep about a 50-50 split, and that's basically been what it is right now for the Broncos. I want to say game 1 it was 52-48 in favor of Lindsey, and this last game was like 53-47 in favor of Royce Freeman. So right now I think that it's just going to continue to stay that way. As far as the wide receivers go, Emmanuel Sanders is a wide receiver 2, can put up wide receiver 1 numbers. Flacco seems to really enjoy throwing the ball to him. Cortland Sutton is a wide receiver 3. Again, has upside to put up better than that, but he is a wide receiver 3. And Fant is no more than a wide receiver 2 right now. We'll see if he can develop the rapport that he needs with Flacco to put up better numbers. As far as the Packers go, Aaron Rodgers is a quarterback 2. You heard that right. Aaron Rodgers is a quarterback 2. I am ranking Aaron Rodgers this week around quarterback 14 just because they're not throwing the ball a lot. They're focusing on the run. They're giving the ball to Aaron Jones and to Jamal Williams. I think that it's kind of that borderline quarterback 1, quarterback 2 for Aaron Rodgers. But I'm not putting him in my top 5. That's just not going to happen. There are other quarterbacks being more productive, doing a lot more right now than Aaron Rodgers. And so he is going to be low end quarterback 1 if I have him as a quarterback 1 this week. Again, we'll kind of see where everything's playing out as we get closer to the end of the week. Jamal Adams, he is still a wide receiver 1, period. He's a wide receiver 1. You draft him that way, keep him that way. He is still the number 1 target for Rodgers. He is going to get the most production. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is a wide receiver 4. Just the inconsistency right now in using a second wide receiver in this offense. I'm just not seeing it. And Geronimo Allison, yes, he had 5 targets, 4 catches for 25 yards. He also had a fumble. He did have a touchdown. I'm just, as the slot receiver, he's obviously the number 3 option in terms of passing. That's just not anywhere I want to be in a run-heavy offense. As far as tight end goes, Jimmy Graham, he's on that borderline tight end 1, tight end 2. It all depends on, how close they get to the red zone, where they can use him there as a big body. Again, Rodgers has never really sustained a tight end 1 for an entire season. I think there was 1 year, like Richard Rodgers' sophomore season, something like that is the only time in the last 6 or 7 in which Rodgers has actually had a tight end 1 for an entire season. So, moving on, the Falcons at the Colts. Matt Ryan, again, I have him on that borderline quarterback 1, quarterback 2 range, probably a low end quarterback 1. Freeman, I have as a running back 2 or 3, low end running back 2 against this Colts defense. I think the Colts could do a decent job of stopping him up at home in Indianapolis. Julio Jones is a wide receiver 1. Calvin Ridley is a boomer bust wide receiver 3. He had a great week last week. We'll see if he can do it again. We'll see if he disappears or not. Austin Hooper, I have as a low end tight end 1. You are going to start him unless you have one of the top options. You are going to start him in 10 to 12 team leagues. As far as the Colts go, Jacoby Brissett, quarterback 2, mid-range quarterback 2. Marlon Mack is a low end running back 1, high end running back 2. The Colts are, I believe, first or second in the league in terms of rush yards. I believe they're second in the league behind Baltimore in terms of rush yards per game at about 185. Wilkins right now is a running back 3. If Mac cannot make it, because right now, I don't think I had this in the update, he missed walkthrough on Wednesday. He left Tennessee with a heavily wrapped calf muscle. If he misses time, Jordan Wilkins could put up running back 2 numbers in this game against the Atlanta Falcons. Hines, again, if Mac misses time, Hines is only a PPR option, could put up, maybe flex play, running back 3 type numbers in PPR. Hilton is a wide receiver 2 in this offense. there really is not another wide receiver in this offense that is fantasy viable yet. And Eric Ebron and Jack Doyle are both low-end tight end 2s. Again, with Jacoby Brissett in this offense, they are running the ball as much as possible, and therefore there is not a whole lot of passing to go around. Moving on, what I'm considering the highlight game of the week, the Ravens visiting the Kansas City Chiefs. Lamar Jackson will be a quarterback 1 in this game. Not only because of his passing ability, but obviously his running ability after last week running for 120 yards. Mark Ingram is a running back 2. Could put up running back 1 numbers. We'll kind of see. The rest of the running backs, unless there's an injury, I'm not seeing any of them putting up enough numbers to make them fantasy worthy. Right now, Marquise Brown is a mid-range wide receiver 2. Again, that has the ability to put up wide receiver 1 numbers. He's, number 2 or 3 right now in terms of wide receivers. He's getting targeted a lot in this offense. They're using him more and more. I've used him more and more over these last couple games. I think he'll get plenty of play in this Chiefs game. I think he has the ability, again, to be a top-flight wide receiver. It's just not very often that we see that from rookies. And this class of rookie wide receivers has been phenomenal so far. Mark Andrews is your tight end 1 there for the Ravens. As far as the Chiefs go, Patrick Mahomes is unsittable. Damian Williams and Shady McCoy are both running back 2 down to running back. Well, Shady McCoy is more that running back 2 or 3 level of running backs. Right now, Damian Williams was sidelined on practice on Wednesday, and I believe that LaShawn McCoy tried to practice Wednesday. I don't know how well that actually went. I have not seen an update on McCoy there. If neither one of them can make it and play, Thompson's a running back 2. I think that he not only can he run the ball, but his ability to catch the ball. What is a little bit of a problem for Thompson eat into his playing time on Sunday if the top 2 guys cannot go is that Darrell Williams is better in pass protection. So beyond that, Sammy Watkins is a lower-end wide receiver 1. Mecole Hardman and Demarcus Robinson are both wide receiver 2, low-end wide receiver 2s with the upside to put up wide receiver 1 numbers. Obviously, Demarcus Robinson was the number 1 wide receiver last week, but Mecole Hardman also had 61 yards on 4 catches and a touchdown and had a 70-yard touchdown called back from a penalty. So Travis Kelce, again, obvious tight end 1. Moving on, the Raiders versus the Vikings. Derek Carr is a quarterback 2. Josh Jacobs is a low-end running back 2 against the tough Vikings defense. Tyrell Williams is a wide receiver 2, kind of on the bottom end wide receiver 2. And Darren Waller is a low-end tight end 1. As far as the Vikings go, Cousins, do not use him. Do not start him. Low-end, bottom-end quarterback 2, almost quarterback 3. And there's not a whole lot of room for those. Thielen is a low-end wide receiver 2. Diggs is a low-end wide receiver 2, almost a wide receiver 3 right now, which is because he hasn't been getting the volume. Thielen's been getting the volume. I want to say he had only 5 targets in the first game, but they only threw 14 times, or maybe it was only 10 times, but had 9 targets in this last game. Diggs had 7 targets in game 2, only was able to come down with 1 of them. Had a second touchdown taken away because of a phantom offensive pass interference penalty. Dalvin Cook is a running back 1, and as far as, again, because they're running so much, Rudolph is not usable. Moving on, the Jets against the Patriots. Luke Falk is not usable. Le'Veon Bell, he is a low-end running back 1 simply because of the amount of use he's going to get. I believe he got 100% of the touches or 100% of the snaps in week 1. Pretty close to that in week 2. Finished with 10 targets. 10 targets or 10 catches, or maybe it was 10 for 10 in this game on Monday Night Football against the Cleveland Browns. Robbie Anderson is a boomer bust wide receiver 3. He can put up 90 yards and a touchdown and then go 3 straight games of only 30 yards. So boomer bust wide receiver 3. Jamison Crowder is a wide receiver 3. I just don't see him necessarily getting the volume unless they have. I mean, they may have no choice but to pass in this game simply because they're going to be playing in Foxborough. Brady is the low end quarterback 1. Sonny Michel, running back 2. They could lean on him a lot in this game. Could be a lot of Sonny Michel and Rex Burkhead running the ball. James White, because of his use mainly in the passing game, he may not be startable except in like 12 to 14 team leagues. In 10-team leagues, he's usually at least a flex. I would almost look at going a different direction this week, simply because, again, I believe they're going to really focus on the run game. They don't have to throw the ball and get all their receivers hurt. They have a fair stable of wide receiver or of running backs. I still believe Antonio Brown is a wide receiver 1. Edelman is a possible wide receiver 2 just because of the targets in PPR. Gordon is boom or bust wide receiver 3. I think the main focus is going to be Brown and Edelman. Moving on. Last page of games. Here we go. The Lions versus the Eagles. Stafford is a high-end quarterback 2 against this defense. Kerryon Johnson is a running back 2. Ty Johnson may be running back 4 up to running back 3 possibly. We'll see how they split the carries with Kerryon and Ty Johnson now that they've released C.J. Anderson. Kenny Golladay is a wide receiver 2 with upside wide receiver 1. He is getting targeted. He is the big guy in that offense. They used to call him Babytron his first couple of seasons. He's moving into that role. Marvin Jones is a wide receiver 3. T.J. Hawkinson is still a tight end 2. Even if he puts up tight end 1 numbers this week, he is a tight end 2 with upside. That's what he is. Carson Wentz is going to be on that back end of quarterback 1 status against the Lions. Miles Sanders is a running back 3 or a flex. No one else really is worthy of using in that offense in terms of the running backs. Nelson Aguilar, he's going to be a tight end or a wide receiver 2, maybe down to a wide receiver 3, simply because you've got both Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey out in this game. Mac Hollins is a wide receiver 4. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, again, wide receiver 4. I think that Zach Ertz gets a ton of work in this game and obviously is a tight end 1. Moving on, the Panthers versus the Cardinals. Again, we talked about Kyle Allen most likely being the starter in this game. I think that he can still put up decent quarterback 2 numbers. I think he will be startable in 2 quarterback leagues as the number 2 quarterback. Let's not forget, Arizona has given up 309 pass yards per game so far in these first 2 weeks. Christian McCaffrey is unsittable. He's a running back 1, period. DJ Moore, low-end wide receiver 2. Curtis Samuel, wide receiver 3. I still think that Allen can expose the defense of the Arizona Cardinals. I still believe they are without their top 2 corners for at least another week or 2. Greg Olsen, he's an upper-end tight end 2. All depends on how much Kyle Allen wants to lean on him. As far as the Cardinals go, Kyler Murray is a quarterback 2 still. I want to say he's like overall quarterback 11 or so, 11 or 12, depending on how some of your stats work out for your leagues and modifiers and all that. David Johnson is a low-end running back 1, but against this Panthers defense might only put up running back 2 numbers. Fitzgerald is a wide receiver 2. Christian Kirk is a wide receiver 3. Everyone else is kind of hit or miss. The Giants versus the Buccaneers. Daniel Jones is a quarterback 2. I'm putting him on the low-end quarterback 2 for now, simply because the Buccaneers have played pretty solid defense so far this season. Again, I know that the 49ers scored 31 points against the Buccaneers in week 1. However, 14 of those points were because of pick sixes off of Jameis Winston's arm. So I think that the Buccaneers could make things a little bit difficult playing at home against Daniel Jones. And so I am not, we'll see how Daniel Jones plays. I'm willing to be wrong and rate him a little bit lower this week. Saquon Barkley is still running back 1. He is going to get the yardage. He's going to get the carries. The Giants' offensive line can run block. They just don't necessarily, pass block all that well. Benny Fowler very well may be the wide receiver 1 this week for the Giants again. He's a wide receiver 3 only based on volume. It all depends on whether Sterling Shepard can come back out of the concussion protocol. He still has a couple of practices left to do that. Evan Ingram should not suffer from Deion Jones. He will still be the tight end 1. I believe right now he's overall tight end 3. Moving on to the Buccaneers, Winston is an upper-end quarterback 2, low-end quarterback 1. He's very streamable this week against the Giants defense that's been giving up a lot of points, a lot of passing. Peyton Barber is a running back 3. I still don't know how much I believe in the running backs in this offense, so for me, I have him as a running back 3. You shouldn't start him, I don't think, unless you're running a 14 to 16 team league. Evans, I believe, makes a comeback this week again, dealing with the flu in the first week where he was seen on the sidelines throwing up on the bench. Week 2 was just a rough week against a solid defense out of the Panthers. I believe he very well could put up those back-end wide receiver 1 numbers this week. Godwin, I believe, is a wide receiver 2, but could put up wide receiver 1 numbers as well. Howard, I am out of hope and desperation putting him as a low-end tight end 1. We will see how this goes. If ever there was a week for O.J. Howard to really get it going, again, this is the week against this Giants defense. The Texans and Chargers. Watson had a crappy game last week, but the Jacksonville defense can be pretty solid. I believe he moves back up into quarterback 1 status this week. Duke Johnson and Carlos Hyde, I believe, are both running back 3s in different aspects. Duke is a running back 3 in PPR because he does catch the ball out of the backfield well. Hyde has been running better than I've seen him run in a long time, putting up, 4.5 yards a carry, which he has not done since his San Francisco days. So in the last 2 years, he's not been anywhere near that kind of production. We'll see if they give him any looks now near the red zone or if they just keep passing the ball to Hopkins and Fuller. Speaking of those two, Hopkins is obviously wide receiver 1. Fuller is a boomer bust wide receiver 3. Moving on to the Chargers. Rivers, I have as a low end quarterback 1, low to mid quarterback 1, going up against a Texans defense that has given up a lot of pass yards over the last couple games, even to Gardner Minshew. Eckler, I believe right now is the number 1 overall scoring running back. I believe he's a low end running back 1, simply because this is not a guy that you necessarily expect to continue putting up these kind of numbers. Jackson, low-end running back 3. Again, you're only using him in games or leagues of 14 to 16 teams. I'm getting through this. All right, Keenan Allen is a wide receiver 1. Mike Williams is a wide receiver 3. Boomer bust. 3 more games to go. The Saints versus the Seahawks. They still have not made an announcement on whether it's going to be Bridgewater or Taysom Hill starting in this game against the Seahawks on Sunday. Either way, they will be a quarterback 2. Low-end quarterback 2, most likely. This defense from the Seahawks is really getting at it and could provide some good, solid scoring, defensive scoring in this game. Really, if you look at the 2 of the touchdowns from the Pittsburgh Steelers last week were because of fumbles down near the end zone for the deep in Seahawks territory. So Michael Thomas, I think he still can put up back end wide receiver 1 numbers, wide receiver 2. I don't trust anyone else in that offense in terms of the wide receivers. Ted Ginn's going to disappear. Traquan Smith, for the most part, is probably going to disappear. Alvin Kamara, back end running back 1. Maybe high end running back 2 numbers. He is going to get a lot of the dump off passes over the middle or out of the backfield. Jared Cook, I believe, could put up low end tight end 1 numbers because of the targets that he will be getting from again, whether it's Taysom Hill or Teddy Bridgewater. Moving on to the Seahawks, low end quarterback 1 for Wilson, maybe even mid range quarterback 1. Carson is a running back 2, especially with the amount of fumbles he has been having. Penny is a boomer bust running back 4. It all depends on how many carries he's getting. Lockett I have as a wide receiver 2, especially in PPR, where he last week had 12 targets and 10 catches. DK Metcalf is a boomer bust wide receiver 3, and Will Dissly is a high end tight end 2. Moving on, the Steelers versus the 49ers. Mason Rudolph, quarterback 2. Juju Smith-Schuster, he's going to be more in that wide receiver 2 range with Rudolph throwing the ball. I have James Washington as a boomer bust wide receiver 4. All depends. Again, they're going up against a tough defense in the 49ers. Connor I have as a running back 2. However, if he's not practicing, Jalen Samuels is a possible low-end running back 2 kind of flex play that you can use. And Vance McDonald I have as a low-end tight end 1 target in this game. As far as the 49ers go, Jimmy Garoppolo, high-end quarterback 2. Matt Breida, running back 2. Mostert, a running back 2 or flex play. Deebo Samuel I have as a high-end wide receiver 3. Goodwin is a boomer bust wide receiver 3 to 4. And George Kittle is a low-end tight end 1. With how this offense has been moving, George Kittle is not having to be the one to get the ball dumped on all the time. It's hurting his fantasy production, even though the team is playing well. So the last game, the Sunday night game, the Rams versus the Browns. Goff is going to be, I believe, a borderline quarterback 1 or quarterback 2. Todd Gurley, I think, is getting more involved in the offense. They're feeling more comfortable using him. Back-end running back 1, high-end running back 2. Cooks, Woods, and Kupp are all wide receiver 2s. In terms of PPR, where I would rank them is Kupp, then Woods, then Cooks. Cooks is more the standard. He doesn't get as many targets, but he gets more of the deep balls. That's kind of the way that he goes. So, as far as the Browns go, Baker Mayfield is a quarterback 1 to 2. This is a tough defense. I think I may put him back more towards the high to mid quarterback 2 for this week. Nick Chubb is still a back-end running back 1. Odell is a wide receiver 1, and Jarvis Landry is a wide receiver 3. That is it. We've made it. I want to thank you guys for taking the time to listen to the show tonight or today, whenever you happen to be listening to it. Good luck in your games this week. We will try to put out, again, we haven't been able to do a Saturday show these last couple of weeks. We'll at least get out a DFS article either Saturday night or Sunday morning, kind of give you some of the value plays and the players that we like for this week in terms of DFS. Again, my name is Ryan Skullroot. Thank you for listening to the SkullKing Football Podcast, and we will talk to you later. Hey, SkullKing Nation. Thank you for listening to the SkullKing Football Podcast. Did you like this episode? If so, be sure to go to iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and YouTube to subscribe. Also, please leave us a rating and reviews to let us know how we can better help you rule your leagues.